The knock behind the wall. It was my second year at Merton College, a sleepy liberal arts school buried deep in the woods of Vermont, the kind of place where fog clings to the grass until noon and old buildings creak even when there's no wind. Everyone called it Murder Merton as a joke because of the endless ghost stories that came with campus tours. I didn't believe in any of it. Not back then. I was broke. What college kid isn't? So when I found an attic room off campus for $250 a month, I jumped on it. It was in this weathered old Victorian house about a mile from school. Faded red paint, a sagging porch, and a landlord who didn't ask too many questions. Perfect. The room was weird. Slanted ceiling, one tiny circular window, and hardly any insulation. But what really caught my attention was the trapdoor in the far corner. About 2 feet wide, nailed shut with 4 rusted metal brackets. I asked the landlord what it was. "Crawl space," he said. "Don't worry about it. Just old house stuff." I should have worried. The first few nights were fine. Cold, sure, and drafty, but nothing I couldn't handle with enough blankets. Then I started hearing the sounds. At exactly 3:13 a.m., every night without fail, something would thump below the floorboards. At first, I figured it was a raccoon or maybe pipes settling. But it didn't sound like pipes. It sounded deliberate, rhythmic, like footsteps. Then came the scratching, light at first, like someone dragging their fingernails against wood, then deeper, angrier. I started sleeping with headphones in, blasting white noise, but that didn't help. One night I woke up drenched in sweat. My headphones had fallen out. The room was silent except for the sound of breathing. Not mine. This was different. Raspy, shaky, like someone was exhaling right next to the trapdoor. That was the first time I noticed the whisper. It was faint, just under the breath. "Eli, Eli." I froze. That's my name. No one knew I lived there. I hadn't even told my friends yet. I was embarrassed about the place. But something knew my name. The next day, I tried to shake it off. Sleep paralysis, a dream, stress. But the voice came back the next night. And the one after that. "Eli, Eli, come back." I stopped sleeping altogether. I started skipping class. I lost weight. My eyes were sunken. My roommate on campus thought I was on something. Maybe I was. I was definitely losing my mind. I finally worked up the nerve to record it. I set up my phone next to the trapdoor and left it running all night while I pretended to sleep. Around 3:13, the sounds returned. First the slow thuds, then the scratch, then the whisper. But this time there were 3 loud knocks, not random, not soft, sharp, deliberate. I didn't move. I couldn't. My limbs felt frozen. It was like something was testing the barrier between us. The next morning I played the recording back. My hands were shaking. I heard it all. The thumps, the scratch, and the whisper. "Eli, Eli, he left me here. He left me here." But that wasn't the worst part. The voice wasn't just whispering, it was responding to something. There was another voice on the recording, fainter, sobbing, repeating over and over, "Let me out." I moved out that afternoon, left everything behind, told the landlord I had a family emergency and never went back. A few weeks later, I finally broke down and told a professor about it. She paled when I mentioned the address. She told me a student named Nathaniel Winters had lived in that attic 5 years ago. Brilliant but strange, obsessed with seances, EVP, and the occult. He disappeared one winter break. They found him in the crawl space, starved, bloody, his nails torn off from scratching at the wood. The trapdoor had been nailed shut from the outside, but that's not the part that still keeps me awake at night. When they pulled his body out, they found something carved into the floorboards over and over again in deep, uneven gouges. One word, Eli. but Nathaniel didn't know me. I was 11 years old the year he. Room 313. They told me not to take that dorm room. Everyone had their superstitions when it came to dorm assignments at Black Hollow University. Some floors were known for being louder, others for mysterious fire alarms at 3 a.m. But room 313 in Everwood Hall? That was the one no one ever requested, even when it was the only room left. But I didn't believe in ghosts, and I sure as hell didn't believe in rumors. I was late accepting my housing, so by the time I checked the portal, all the decent rooms were gone. Singles, full, doubles, also gone. But there it was, sitting unclaimed, 313. It was listed as a single with private bath, which was a rare gem. I figured the only reason people avoided it was superstition. I mean, come on, this was a STEM school. We didn't believe in haunted rooms. I took it. The first red flag happened on move-in day. My resident assistant, Dan, blinked twice when he saw my room number on the checklist. "You sure?" he asked, half joking. 313? "Yeah," I said, dragging my suitcase down the hall. He opened his mouth to say something else, but just shook his head and led me upstairs. Everwood Hall was old, like 1920s. Gothic-style gargoyles on the roof old. The stairs creaked in a way that felt too deliberate, like the building wanted me to hear it. Room 313 was at the very end of the hall, past a disused fire exit. The door had a different knob from the others, dark brass instead of the standard silver. There was a faint, acrid smell in the air, like ozone and mildew. Inside, the room looked normal enough. Twin bed, desk, dresser, tiny private bathroom. The only oddity was a small square door high up on the wall above the closet. One of those crawl space things maintenance used for wiring access. It was padlocked. I lived there alone for 3 weeks without incident, until the scratching started. It was faint at first, like mice. I assumed it was just the building. After all, it was nearly a century old. But the scratching wasn't random. It came from the same spot every night, behind the wall above the closet, behind that little door. I recorded it on my phone once. When I played it back, it didn't sound like scratching. It sounded like whispering. I brought it to Dan, figuring I could at least get maintenance to check it out. He listened, his face going paler by the second. "Delete that," he said. "What?" "Just delete it. Don't record anything else. I'll get someone to look at it." I didn't delete it. That night I dreamed of someone standing in the corner of my room. They didn't move. They just stared. I couldn't see their face, only the silhouette of them. But I knew they were watching me. When I woke up, my closet door was open. It got worse after that. Books fell off my shelves in the middle of the night. My laptop opened itself and started typing nonsense in the search bar, strings of 3s and 1s, over and over again. Lights flickered and the overhead bulb once exploded while I was studying. I stopped sleeping. The whispers got louder. One night I heard my name, clear as day, right in my ear. "Eli!" I jumped out of bed, turned on every light, and checked every inch of the room. No one was there. But when I looked at the wall above the closet, the padlock was gone. The small door hung slightly ajar. I should have left right then and there. I should have run. But like an idiot, I got a chair and climbed up to look inside. There was nothing, just blackness. And then something grabbed my wrist. It was ice cold. Thin fingers, bony, brittle, but strong. I yanked back hard enough to fall off the chair, slamming into the floor. When I looked again, the door was closed. The padlock was back. I moved out the next morning. Dan didn't seem surprised. He helped me carry my stuff in silence, then stopped me at the front steps. "You're lucky," he said. "The last guy who stayed in 313 didn't leave. They found him in the closet. Said he climbed in and locked himself in. Left a note saying he couldn't sleep anymore. Said the girl in the walls wouldn't stop whispering. I asked if the school ever did anything about it. He shook his head. Officially, there's no record of any of it. Room 313 is just another empty room in the system. They don't close it. They just wait for the next person who's late to housing. I never went back, but sometimes I still hear it. That faint scratching sound behind walls, under floorboards, in vents. Always the same rhythm. Always the same whisper. Eli. I think I brought her with me. The final exam. They say stress can drive you mad. I used to think that was just a metaphor. Now I know better. I was a senior at Mather College, a small, gray-bricked university in upstate New York. Cold as hell in the winter, haunted with rumors in the spring. Every old campus has stories. This one had dozens. Ghosts in the library, disembodied screams near the clock tower. But the one that got whispered the most, always in that half-laughing, half-serious tone, was about Professor Emery's final exam. Emery taught advanced symbolic logic, a killer course in the philosophy department that barely 10 students dared to take each semester. He was ancient, gray suit, wire-rimmed glasses, bald head with liver spots like continents. People said he'd taught here since the 60s, maybe even earlier. No one had ever seen him outside that classroom on the 3rd floor of Wicks Hall. No office hours, no email replies. Just the class once a week, always at 9:13 p.m. Not 9:00, not 9:15, 9:13. I took his class on a dare. It was me, 3 philosophy majors, 2 math nerds, a girl named Riva who transferred from a university in Prague, and 1 quiet guy named Steven who never took off his gloves. I thought it would be an easy A. I'd always been good at logic puzzles. But this was different. Emery didn't teach from a textbook. He lectured from memory, scrawling strange symbols across the board that looked like a hybrid between mathematics and arcane script. I remember the first time he wrote the Nabla symbol. It looked like a triangle stabbed through by a nail. He tapped it with his chalk and muttered, "The key to seeing between truths." No one asked what he meant. The class wasn't graded with homework or midterms, only the final. That was made clear from day 1. Emery told us we'd receive the location and time the week before finals. Attendance, he said, is not optional. The message came via campus mail, a black envelope, no return address. My name, handwritten in red ink. Inside was a single card, final exam location, East Campus sub-basement, 3x3:13, AM date, December 17. No one even knew East Campus had a sub-basement, let alone a third one. I showed it to Riva that night. Her face went pale. "They do this in the Czech Republic too," she said quietly. "Not with logic, with folklore, exams that test more than knowledge." She looked at me. We should not go, but I went. Of course I did. December 17th. Snow like chalk dust blanketed the quad. I wore 2 coats and gloves and brought a flashlight because half the campus had lost power earlier that day. The entrance to the sub-basement was behind the old biology lab, a rusted metal door I'd never noticed before. It was already open. I descended alone. The stairs creaked. The walls were bare concrete. Each floor below got colder and darker until I reached the 3rd sub-basement. The air smelled like wet earth and something older. Not rot, more like history decaying in silence. The room was circular, stone walls like a forgotten cellar. 6 desks stood in a ring facing inward. Each had a candle. Everyone was there, Stephen, Riva, the others, silent, pale, as if they'd been waiting hours. Professor Emery stood in the center, his chalkboard suspended on nothing, floating mid-air. "Welcome," he said. "Your final exam consists of 1 question. He raised a hand. The board spun. Symbols spilled across it like crawling insects, rearranging themselves into a single sentence. It read, "What is the true name of the void that dreams us?" I laughed. I actually laughed out loud, but no one else did. They were all already writing. I looked at the blank paper in front of me, the old fountain pen beside it. I didn't remember bringing it. Then I felt it, this pressure behind my eyes, like something was pushing against my skull from the inside. Words swam in my mind, not English, not anything human. And suddenly, my hand was moving, writing. I don't know how long I wrote. Time melted. I only remember the sensation of something ancient whispering behind my ear, guiding my hand with syllables that should never be spoken aloud. Then the candle went out. I blinked. The room was empty. The desks were gone. The board was gone. Emery was gone. So was everyone else. Only I remained, sitting in the dark, holding a paper covered in symbols I no longer understood. When I made it back to my dorm, I was shivering. My skin was covered in goosebumps. The paper was gone. So was the fountain pen. I tried to talk to Riva. She never came back to campus. Her room was cleared out. No forwarding address.